Hey traders, TG Watkins. It is January 26th when I'm recording this. It's Sunday. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying your weekend. So this is going to be the first part, which is going to be kind of the market overview. We're going to show you guys kind of what I'm seeing with the indices and account performance and all this kind of stuff. And then the second section, when we dive into individual stocks, that's going to be for the Moxie subscribers. So if you guys want, come subscribe so you can see the rest of that. And so for this, remember, this is for educational purposes only. And then also, I think that the market is kind of at an area where it should be resting. So this week, obviously, we've had a continuation of very much strength to the upside. We even saw a new high on the S&P. But I think that was kind of like a topping tail for now. Don't panic. That's kind of what I'm looking at. I think we do need to be cautious on the long side for now. I don't know how long that's going to last, but basically we had a heck of a turnaround after CPI a couple weeks ago. And so the market has just been ripping and it's been fantastic. But at this point, the market is right at a previous all-time high. We are seeing some divergences to the downside, and the market's just, it just ran a sprint. So we should expect it to kind of calm down, settle in, and use this as a way to not keep buying stuff, but to look for opportunities of some tickers to come down into some reasonable buy points over the next few days. And, if things start to fall apart, get out. But otherwise, I'm looking for a little bit of softness digesting of this kind of move, and then we can see if the market wants to go higher. So that's what we're going to be doing here with this list. And before we get into that, let me show you this. I figured you guys might enjoy checking this out. I found this to be pretty interesting because this is that $25,000 account that I fired up a few months ago. And right now it's sitting at just over 60,000. It was actually higher than that on Friday was a big day, but market went up and then came back down, so had to give back a little bit on that. The peak of it was just earlier in January, 64.4 as far as the high point. That was 157% gain from that 25,000. So this has been a really, really good count. I only trade stock with this, so this is kind of telling you what the market's doing. And then I did the best I could to kind of put the scale on this, and you can see that these dates are lined up to the dates that are on the account. And you can see it, and I find this very interesting. I made a post on social media a little bit ago. The market basically started to pull back, like underneath the surface. If you looked at breadth, you can see December 2nd was basically the top of the market, and that is when the majority of names started to lose their 20-day SMAs, basically. You can see that. And then it proceeded that we had a month-long pullback in the market. And you can see all the while, this account that I was trading continued to go higher. So we were in some pretty good names that withstood the market pullback. And this is the kind of stuff that we do over in the Moxie room. We find stuff that is still working even when the market's kind of having a hard time. Now, the only place that we actually got a pullback in the account was the last week of the market pullback. That was January 6th was the peak of the account for this. That was also, the market had shot up then, and we got one more week of pullback, and then we had CPI, and that's when the market turned back around, and you can see the account also turned back around too. So that's why we're able to just totally withstand the weak month of December, and we're making new account highs even though the market was pulling back. And there were a couple choice stocks that decided to pull back starting at that January thing. Yes, there were some small caps, and you could see that the IWM did make new lows after that, and I think that's what we got caught up in. So after that, we're just kind of waiting for the market to come back. As I said, I think that the market is right here at a top. It's very extended, and we should expect some softness and some pulling back in this area. So if we take a little bit closer look, you guys can see what we've been looking at in through here. We've been seeing this channel, this pullback, and we perfectly nailed the CPI move, came up here, made 412% on a call spread, like a 1 DT call, did all that kind of stuff. We've been flagging into the 15-minute 50. All that has been really, really good. And then basically there was the last few days up in here was like, okay, where are we going to start kind of tiring out? Because we're going to, of course, at some point. Your market can't go straight up for forever. And Netflix had earnings that helped push the market up even further. And then basically it was like Thursday. I thought the market was going to just kind of go sideways. If we kind of look here, It looked like that was going to be the digesting day, was Thursday, and for the most part it was. We did an iron condor, which a 0DT iron condor. We got something like 98% out of that one, so that was great. And then we sold the short call, or bought back the short call up here, and thank goodness we did, because we got a pretty sharp run into the end of the day on that one, which now that we see appears to have been kind of a blow off top for that moment. And you can see on Friday now, I was away from my desk on Friday, so I didn't take any trades. But yeah, we finally got that pullback on Friday. And yeah, look at this. I mean, it's just right here at previous all-time highs. So, it kind of makes sense that that's going to be some natural resistance. We can also see that we're pulling away from moving averages. And, now we are finally starting to break the 15-minute 50. So the Moxie traders will know what that means and what we're looking at. And now I'm not sure if we are going to go down or if we're mostly going to go sideways. I wouldn't swing short the market, okay? This is not a time to get bearish on the market or anything else like that. It's a time to expect some softness and digesting and flagging, or some chop and consolidation, that kind of thing. And so maybe some of the names will get a little bit weak as the market kind of starts to rest in through here. Maybe some names will continue to fall apart, okay? Don't be in those names. Other names, yep, we can still get some bullish ones that want to continue to move higher. But this is a good time to kind of look around and see what names are still sitting up, because I'm seeing a lot of good opportunities out there that I'm still very excited about. And the market could very much just go sideways. So if we kind of zoom out and look at this, and we kind of show you some other prior examples. This may be not the greatest one. That was a pretty big pullback, but something like that. There's a little bit of a consolidation, or, right here we could see a consolidation. I think those are ideas to be looking for. If this does happen to be a little bit bigger of a pullback, that's okay. We should be prepared for that. But you can see here, consolidation. Okay, that was a little bit of a pullback, and then through here, kind of just digesting stuff. So we're not entirely sure of the path. It is possible that we get a big dip, certainly possible. And we just need to be okay with that and expect something like that, because here we are, pretty big move up, and we should expect a little bit of softness as the market comes down, finds some support, and then hopefully goes back up after that. Now, the difference is, though, it was pretty impressive that the S&P made new highs on Friday. Just basically bull flag new Fridays up on that, because if we look at something like the NASDAQ and some of these other indices, this is where I was saying, hey, we should be expecting. I was talking to the Moxie trading group about all this, kind of midweek, and saying, this is kind of getting to an area where we should expect some consolidation, and the market, the S&P just kept going higher. But the NASDAQ, started to, there you go. There's that pullback that we're looking for. And then you can see here, weaker on Friday, basically a double top, whereas the S&P made higher highs. But this is okay. This is totally normal as far as what I'm expecting. We should expect that these things are going to kind of take some time to digest. Maybe they come down a little bit. If I show you, let's look at SMH, for example. You can see that the semiconductors did actually pull back. And again, don't be surprised by this right now. So we had some really, really big moves to the upside. And then we had Thursday on it was actually kind of a pullback. And then Friday was even more of a pullback. And you can see how SMH actually is coming down into support, whereas the NASDAQ is sideways. And then the S&P just kind of went higher. So everything's kind of doing their own situation as far as how they want to digest the big move that we've had over the last 2 weeks or so. Because you can see all these names are running into either resistance or kind of these outer boundaries and pulling away from moving averages, all that kind of stuff. But you take that aside, this is a good move. In fact, I'll show you breadth coming up here in a second. All of this is now firing off. I mean, when you look at even the SMH, the semiconductors, they have been flagging for months, and we've just kind of been waiting for this stuff to get going, and now it looks like they are. I think this looks like it's getting going. It's tested its weekly 50, it's monthly 10. I mean, all these things are looking good. We have a giant squeeze on the weekly chart. We're starting to see NVIDIA set up, ARM popped off. We're seeing a lot of good stuff. Okay, so just because it's pulling back in through here doesn't mean you need to get shaken out or scared out or anything. This actually is going to end up being a good buying opportunity if you want to get into SMH, SOXL, or anything else in the semiconductor space that is looking pretty good. As I said, ARM and NVIDIA, they all look like they're starting to set up again. So same thing with NASDAQ. Just don't be surprised. I mean, look at this thing. It's totally broken out of this downward channel. We are seeing participation across the board looking really, really good. It's just that this needs to digest, okay? It can't be up here forever. And so it's either going to go sideways to support or down into support, and we just need to be prepared for that. We can also look at the Dow. The Dow has been extremely strong, very impressive, but look where it is. Right up here at the outer boundary, and you can see here it's pulling away from the moving average too. So at some point these things are going to have to come back down. It's starting to break the 15-minute 50, and so we just need to be prepared for this. The other thing is, you look at this, look at where the Dow stopped. I mean, look at that, right into the bottom of that upper range and right at the top of that point. I mean, that's pretty darn good as far as a target. That makes a lot of sense, that the market's going to, number one, go there, and number two, stop there. So that's the Dow. We did, and then let's look at the IWM, and you can see here all these things have recovered. And as I said, the account that I showed you that took a little bit of a dip was basically right there. Like it looked to me like the IWM was, finding its level, and then looked to me like it wanted to go higher, and then they kind of pulled the rug out from underneath us, and that was it. But I said, hey, I think this is still looking good. In fact, you can look at this trend line that we've gotten here. Even that extra little dip perfectly held the trend line. It held the daily 200, and then we reversed hard off of the CPI, which we played perfectly. So same thing here. Look at price running into the underside of the daily 50. Look at price running right into this congestion area of previous price areas. And basically we just need to see price kind of, take some time, settle in, find some support, and then go back up again after this. Okay. Now let's take a look at breadth. I'll show you guys this. And this is really the story of what has been happening over the last few months. Okay. And this is also where this is how we started positioning ourselves in the Moxie room. Even though we could see that the market topped out, you could see breadth topped out all across the board. Everything topped out and it was starting to come down. And then what happened is we were, the account that I showed you, that $25,000 account, was still going up even while breadth was coming down hard like this. And so once we started to see this actually turn up, you could see that breadth was starting to make a higher low, even though the market made lower lows. I said, this is the bottom and we need to start going shopping. So we went shopping the day before CPI and bought probably 5 or 6 different equity names, and they're all doing wonderfully right now. So yeah, we can see here, everything's up, up, up across the board. Now again, maybe the reason why, if we look at these indicators as to why the market needs to take a little bit of a break, if we, other than just looking at the market itself, is look, we are up here at basically 80% of stocks are over their 20-day SMA. Now, this indicator can hang there for a while, but it's just to say that, hey, a majority of stocks are now up here, and you can see that this indicator really doesn't go that much further than 80%. Of course, it can go to 90 or something like that, but usually around this area is where things need to take a little bit of a break, take a rest, okay? Because you can just see it doesn't go that much further even when the market wants to keep moving up. So just kind of understand we're going to be taking a little bit of break in through here, and we're going to be waiting for the next reload. So those of you in the Moxie room, I'm going to tell you a little bit more detail about that, our whole first move, second move concept. I'm seeing it across the board, so this is what we're going to be doing about that. Now we can also look at the put-call ratio. And the one thing to really point out here, the bottom of the market, and maybe I can, let me see, let me zoom in just a little bit on here for you, because this is actually important. Now my cursors are going to be a little bit misaligned, but what I want to show you right there, notice that the put-call ratio spiked to 1. Now, the 10-day moving average is not there. As I said, this indicator has not been that accurate or usable for the last several, like year or more. But if you look at the daily reading, it spiked to 1, and that was, in fact, the low of the market. Worked out pretty well, didn't it? So that was pretty neat as far as that worked out. And you can see just another little bit of an aftershock right there, kind of spiked up, and that also helped propel the market to the upside as far as the put-call ratio. So that was pretty neat. And then if we look at the UVIX, I like to look at this. And this is where over the last week or so I said, yeah, it's been going up. We just need to make sure that it doesn't continue to go up. I said, hey, this is looking like it wants to keep going, and we just need to make sure it doesn't. And so basically we saw here, this is right around the PPI CPI day. You could see the volatility. UVIX got underneath its 15-minute 50, started to break down, broke below the hourly 50, and basically turned course. This is good. This is what we wanted to see. This was the confirmation that the market was ready to go higher, because UVIX just broke down and started going lower. And so if we look at the VIX, it pretty much tells the same story. It's like, okay, we saw the VIX starting to pop up and starting to move, and you're like, okay, we got to be careful with this. And I said, as long as it doesn't keep going up, we're going to be good. And you can see the same phenomenon here where price got underneath the 15-minute 50 and just started going back down. So that's everything we have in through here. That should give you a good idea of what's happening with the market as a whole. For those of you in the Moxie room, give me just a second. I'll come over here and we'll start diving into all the names that we are trading and some of the ideas that we're looking at for this coming week.